This episode of Brains on Games will talk about Really Loud Librarians, the new word game from the folks at Exploding Kittens. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and this episode we're going to talk about a brand new game from the folks over at Exploding Kittens. So you know this is a game that's going to be quick and silly and fun. It's a game called Really Loud Librarians. And with the shiny box here, you might be getting a reflection on the screen. But Really Loud Librarians is a game that works with kids age 8 and up, so the younger players can get involved in this one. You can play with 2 or more people because you're just splitting people up into 2 teams, and games play in only about 20 minutes. Let's take a deeper look at Really Loud Librarians. Really Loud Librarians is a light game where you're trying to come up with words that begin with a particular letter. You're going to earn points by being the one who goes furthest around this track. So the board is a little track that has a chain that moves around this oval here. And you earn points by being the furthest one around and by coming up with words that begin with a particular letter that has a bonus token on it, which we'll talk about. Before you start the game, you are going to choose a number from 1 to 4. Each card has 4 different categories on it. So through the entire game, you'll be playing only with the number 3 categories, for example. So you choose that number at the beginning. And then you pick at random one of these little tokens here that have letters on them. So I've got the letter M, and that's going to go right over here beside the letter M on the board. And now if my chain comes around and I think of a word that starts with M, I'm going to get a bonus point. And because you're a librarian, the bonus point is a book. So you've got these little books that you're going to be earning through the rounds of the game. You'll divide everyone up into 2 teams. Doesn't matter how many players are on each team. You don't have to have the same number of players on each team even. And you're either going to be on Team Gertrude or Team Wilfred. And then you begin by snapping Gertrude into this chain like that. And the chain will move around the track. It's flexible, so you can see how it can go around the corners here. And it's circling some letters. You're going to have 3 letters that are circled by the links on the chain. So if I chose number 3 as the category number that I'm going to use, and I draw the top card here, it says sandwiches. Now I have to think of sandwiches that start with L or S or K. You could say maybe a sub, and then you'd slide Gertrude along. And what she's going to do is move to the letter, the first letter in the word that you provided. You might say a Dagwood. And then you move her ahead to the D. And you're trying to race and get as far along the track as you can, hopefully earning a bonus point by coming up with, say, a meatball sandwich. And then I could move to the M, and then I'd earn a book. Now, once I've gone around the track a little bit, you're not going to have time to go around the track very far because you're on a timer here. So the other thing that happens is that as soon as that card is turned, the timer is going to flip over and you've got a minute to come up with as many of these words as you can. So you are under a time pressure. Once the time runs out, you take Gertrude out of the chain, you leave her beside the board so that you know where she finished, and then Wilfred gets to start. And the other team does exactly the same thing, starting from exactly where Gertrude started at the beginning. So we'd be moving the chain back to the letter E. Once both players have done their 1-minute turn, then you see who's gone furthest around the track. So if Wilfred didn't quite make it, if he couldn't think of too many words that are unhealthy foods, then he's not going to win the round. Even if he had some bonus points, there are some black ones for his team. Even if he had some bonus points, he's not going to earn those bonus points. You'll get 1 point for being the farthest around the track, and you'll get a point for each of these bonus books that you have as well. So Gertrude might have won 2 points this time, and then we'd move her little counter up the track like this. And like I said, she's trying to be the first 1 to 12. Before the next round starts, you're going to switch everybody out. You're starting from wherever Wilfred left off, and you add another bonus letter to the track. So now M and I, too bad, they're both side by side. So you really only have 1 chance here to come up with maybe a word that's going to earn you a bonus point. And it's this game is funny because with the time pressure, you will find yourselves shouting words. So it's called Really Loud Librarians. And we didn't expect to be yelling as we were playing the game, but you're trying to think of those words so fast and you do wind up raising your voice. I'll be honest with you, it is not a quiet game. Now, what skills are you working on when you play a game like Really Loud Librarians? Well, you're not building your vocabulary, certainly, by playing a game like this. You're thinking of words that have a particular beginning letter, but really what you're trying to do is access what you know as quickly as possible. And you're trying to think of names of things that begin with that certain letter. And that's really a skill called verbal fluency or oral language fluency. Fluency meaning like you're working quickly and efficiently and you're trying to come up with as many ideas as quickly as possible. So you're rapidly accessing your vocabulary, and that's what you're practicing here, is the rapid access. Of course, you're dealing with some time pressure because you've got that hourglass, well, the minute glass, I guess, the sand timer here. And we did find, I think myself in particular, as we were playing, it's been a while since I played a game with the sand timer, that as the time started to run out, it became harder and harder to think of ideas because the pressure was, you're just thinking about, I need to think of a word that starts with J, but I'm almost out of time. So you're dealing with the time pressure, but primarily what you're doing is practicing that verbal fluency, quickly accessing what you know. Final thoughts, though, about Really Loud Librarians. Well, like all of the Exploding Kittens games, this is a game that's just silly. It plays quickly. It's super easy to learn and to teach. And in the group that we played with, folks who really don't like word games very much, they immediately put this on their list of games to pick up for their own family. So this was a game that was a hit. And like I said, even with people who don't normally like word games, because it's quick and it's funny, it is fun. Honestly, like there's lots of games like this. Scattergories is a good example. But it is fun to move these ridiculous characters around the track, and you're trying to think of a word that begins with the letter that's going to move you the furthest, so that hopefully you can go around even a full lap. Maybe you can go 2 laps around the track if you're really good and really quick. But the categories are also ridiculous. So athletes, sure, you might be able to think of athletes that have names that begin with the letters here on the track. But what about internet slang? That might be a little bit harder. Things you pay to use. Like, they've got some really fun categories here, and the game is so silly. Now, are there downsides to Really Loud Librarians? I would say no. There's not a single thing that we didn't like about it. If you like these kinds of games, and even if you're on the fence about these kinds of games, we did have silly fun playing this one. As you go through the rounds, if one player doesn't make it up to 12, there's going to be more and more bonus points around the circle, and you might find the player that, this is what happened in the very first game that we played. One player was way ahead, had 8 points, the other player had 4, but then they went around and they earned all these bonus points, and they just caught up later in the game. The only, I think, like niggling tiny little point about this game would be the score counters, because they do sort of just fit in these little squares. But they're little cardboard X's, and I think I would have preferred a cube here. It just would have been easier to get everything to line up properly so that the score counters fit on this track. But that is a very nitpicky point about a game that we had a lot of fun playing multiple times. We played this in a row because people were like, I cannot get enough of this game, and you want to mix up the teams a little bit. And anyway, we had a lot of fun playing Really Loud Librarians, and we were very loud as we were playing. You wouldn't want to play this one in a library. So that is Really Loud Librarians in a nutshell. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can leave them in the comment section below the video. You can tell me even the kinds of word games that you like to play. But you can leave that comment in the comment section of the video. Of course, you could also email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. The previous ones are up there already. Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed, so we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.